Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Savon Myers on Talking Wellness.
And I'm Kelvin from Kiva.
And we are sponsored by the Kiva Centers. The Kiva Centers is a nationally recognized Indigenous-led peer-run trauma-informed organization. The organization focuses on development and promotion of healing communities for people experiencing different social class impacts like trauma, mental health, and substance use. And you are listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. All right. How you doing over there, Calvin?
I'm doing pretty good. Weather's nice. Week
It's
just
nice.
started.
Yeah.
Kind of getting into the motion of things. So I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good too. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm ready for fall, ready to get my boots out and
Yeah.
everything. I'm excited. I think it gets to a point where it's like we're done with winter, right?
Yeah.
We're done with spring. We're waiting, anticipating the summer, and then that just gets long, and then school starts rolling in, and then like we're done with summer. We're ready
Yeah.
for like sweater weather, right? So I'm excited about that and everything else that comes with it, like the campfires and different things like that.
Yeah.
Do you like to camp?
I do. I actually like being outside in nature. I like going on walks, see the leaves change colors and things
Leaf
like that.
peeping, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think I have my relatives, they all live in New York City, and they had mentioned that they're all from our foliage starts early than the city. Like they came. So I don't remember when I was in New York City when I lived there. I lived there all my life pretty much, but I mean, I can't tell, the difference unless, I'm here and it starts and then I go there and
Yeah.
so, but we do have like a lot of trees here in Western Mass and everything else in Central Mass. So that's nice. Leaf peeping is nice. What are some of the best places to go for leaf peeping?
I've been in the like West Boylston area.
Yeah.
I go there a lot. I know there's a lot of trails out there. Mount Wachusett, I like going around over there too. It's really nice. So
yeah. I think Western Mass is pretty good too. Like when I moved here, people were like, "Oh, Western Mass is considered more of like the countryside, where going towards East Boston is more of the city," which it does reminds me of New York City.
Right? Yeah.
And then you come and everything's so spread out in Western Mass. All right, sounds good. Well, we have a special guest here today. Jamal, are you there? Hi, Jamal. How are you? There. All right. Yep. Okay. So we'll just we'll wait for him to get on. But yeah. So, coming from a city and that sort of thing, like, a lot of where there are a lot of buildings. I think harvesting season is really nice coming up, like a lot of the hay rides. I haven't really done that yet with my kids, but like the apple picking and the pumpkin patch
carving and all that
and
stuff
carving.
like that.
I haven't done the pumpkin patch with them yet, though. I plan to.
It's fun. I'm not too familiar with the name of the places, but I've been around a lot with like my friends, like children. They do apple picking. It's amazing. It's nice. Yeah,
definitely. Well, once we get Jamal back on, Jamal Spencer is his name. He's a pretty good dude. He had invited me to a barbecue that they had way back right after July 4th. And it was really interesting because what he did at the barbecue, he pulled a lot of people together as far as networking. So had people from different places, different clinics networking and that sort of thing. And I meant to take pictures, but I didn't really get a chance to do any of that. And then every time me and my coworker at the time when we got up, we just, we were headed out. We were like, yeah, it's time to go. We kept being stopped like by 5 or 10 people. So, and then we just kept giving out business cards. So, but I really enjoyed it. Okay. A lot of people who were incarcerated at one point in their life were there, and they were incarcerated and they turned entrepreneurs. So that was really nice. They had their own businesses. Some of them, they talked about being wrongly accused of something and spending time for no reason. So they're just going through a battle with that. But I think, the most important thing that they did stress when they were there was the mental health of people who were incarcerated and how they're dealing with it now. Like even when, they're working on their entrepreneurship and they're getting that all situated, they still have like times where it's not the best. Cause it's like, how can you forget an event like that? You know what I mean?
Can't imagine how to like go through that and process. It's interesting you're mentioning that. I had a group today and I had somebody who was kind of sharing a moment where they were incarcerated too, and just the struggles of like when you finally come out, you're like, what's next? Or the things you were dealing with, having those flashbacks or moments where it's like, yeah, you're keeping yourself busy with like the next things that you're doing, but those memories still come back. You get those glimpses. It's hard.
I can't imagine being confined and being behind, closed in, someone telling you when to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, pretty much,
All eyes on you.
Yep. And then watching your back as well, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's cool. So Jamal, when he's here, he pops up, we'll be able to.
Oh, there
How
you
you
go.
doing? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yay, you arrived. We were keeping it together up here. Don't
I
worry.
was here. Siobhan, I actually pressed the button and it just went blank. I said, I'm not touching nothing else no more. It's just
No,
not happening.
definitely. Absolutely.
So yeah,
Welcome to the show, Jamal Spencer, correct?
correct. Happy to be here. Definitely
Absolutely. I
happy to
was
be
just
here.
Yep, and this is my co-host Calvin.
Hello. Hello.
How you
Nice
doing,
to meet you,
Calvin?
Spencer.
I'm good.
We were just talking about like the barbecue they had, like right at what was it,
Yes,
after July 4th or some
yes.
yeah,
I
yes.
caught I caught it. Thank you for that prayer. So that barbecue is actually like a community event that we do, like for
Mhm.
those who are returning citizens, as well as those
Yep,
who are justice impacted. So
yep.
families and friends, everyone's involved. We don't turn nobody away. It's
Mhm.
also a place that we go to where we socialize, network. Um, and actually, we're not really supposed to be doing that. So
Oh,
they have a rule. But because I bring a lot of constituency as far as clergy, because I bring in like people who are I have parole board members there.
yep.
I have doctors there, such as yourself, clinicians, state representatives, states and like even senators come. So that alone turns into an event. Hold up.
Yep. We
Yeah,
lost you there. There you go. You're
yeah,
back.
because someone tried to call me.
Okay.
So with that sense, we're able to do what we do. Plus, my premises, just like in AANA, if an addict can help an addict, who can help an ex-offender but someone who's an ex-offender?
Yeah.
So when people are coming back into, transition and getting acclimated back into society, who better to talk to than somebody who's been there and done that and still going through it? Opposed to you trying to have something. This is no knock to nobody else because I tell people sometimes you need that extra edge. But
Mhm.
opposed to someone who doesn't have the lived experience, opposed to someone who's just operating off, textbook and stuff of that nature.
Yep.
I like that deal with the duality. If you have the
Mhm.
knowledge of that, cool. But if you also have the experience, even better.
Yep, absolutely. You're
Because
listening to Community Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. Go ahead, Jamal. Sorry about
so
that.
I would tell most people that I really don't want to listen to you unless you can tell me, like, what have you been through?
Mhm.
What qualifies you to even have a conversation with me? I don't want to hear about none of your accolades and all that's cool.
Yep.
But you got people who are dealing with real time issues that are life or death that are not in your book.
Yeah,
Um, and so with
absolutely.
that, it's definitely like that. So, but I also understand the clinical aspect that's needed and necessary.
Mhm.
So when you have people like I don't have degrees, I don't have like, but I'm able to diagnose somebody so you have to go to someone who's a professional who's able to help you, man, get along that, or somebody who's able to talk you out. I know about de-escalation. I know
Mhm.
about intervention. I know about prevention. I know about things of that nature because I lived it. I know what it took if somebody came to me and said, Jamal, just breathe, that it would have stopped a whole lot from happening. Where I see that in a lot of my peers, men
Mhm.
and women alike. So when you have that, um, I'm going to call it a skill set. When you have that type of skill set and you're able to practice that organically and holistically, you're on a whole nother plane. So we try to provide that just by gathering with one another. That
Mhm.
type of camaraderie that we bring, you can't really. Let me rephrase that. I look at that similar, like someone who went to Vietnam,
Mhm.
and even though we exist in a world where it's white and black, they don't draw those color lines because of the experience that they went through. So you might understand their brotherhood or their sisterhood, but I get it now because I've lived in the trenches with a lot of men, and I've been out here with a lot of women who've been through the same type of incarceration, where
Mhm.
we're helping each other move forward out here in the society because it's ugly, especially when you got so much stacked against you. So for me, when I put together Evolve Together, and I know it's the premise of why we're Evolve Together actually is an acronym in part for End Violence in Our Lifetime Together. And so you took the word EVOL. That's love backwards. And the reason why I have it as love backwards is because of the evil that you will hear a lot of people perpetuate through self-perceptions. I'm a goon, I'm a thug, I'm a savage, I'm a demon, all those stuff. When you start casting those type of spells and you get into a belief system of what's supposed to go with those spells, I'm a demon. You're supposed to be demonic. A savage, you're not even civilizing what you're doing and you're just out and about. Where you'll have the levels of violence that's carried out on one another. You're like, damn, how could someone even do that? It's easy. I just formed a mental capacity just allowed me to do this to you because this is how I see my self-perception of myself is. I was someone who lived that. Growing up, considering myself a thug, a goon. So when you're doing these things like that, you have to live that till its fullest. You have to be a thug.
Right.
You have to be a goon. Like there's no consciousness behind that. It's just what you do every day. You sought to become. I didn't seek to become a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a policeman or firefighter. I wanted to be the best gangster possible because it's what I grew up under. That in turn cost me so much in my life. Whereas when I was inside, having served a total of 32 years of incarceration, right? Came home in 2021. And from 2021, I just been doing what I possibly can to get out and show different, to be different, to see different and understand differently how my upbringing was. And then that brought me to the Department of Youth Services where I worked at. I was able to engage and they helped me change really a lot about Evolve from a younger standpoint. Although I know that, it's a lot of us men and women that need to be like recalibrated, if you will. Our thinking needs to be recalibrated. Directions need to be changed. Things need to be redefined. But the children who are most susceptible to a lot, because they're still sponging up, they're still absorbing the energy that, was left out. Those are the ones who I feel as though are much more, when I mean culpable, guilty of perpetuating than the adults are. The adults are guilty of like trying to put battery packs in them, doing stuff that they wouldn't normally do. So I need you to go do this, little man. You trying to ride, right? All right. So I've seen this on a day-to-day basis. It's ugly.
Are you from the Boston area?
I'm from Dorchester.
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you a bit about that. Coming up in Dorchester, around the streets of Greenwood Street, which they will label that area gang area. Those are the things that I've seen coming up in Boston, Dorchester. That spiral helped me spiral out of control. And back then, you couldn't even say that you was an addict as far as drinking and smoking. We smoked weed every day. We drank every day. But to go up to your man and like, oh, bro, you was an alcoholic. They're going to get you like you stupid. Like, what are you talking about? Bro, this is what, get away from me. This is what we do. But as I'm older, I'm realizing these were the things we was using to cope. These are the things we was using to bottle up a lot of emotions, a lot of the psychological aspects that came with us chaining ourselves down.
You bring up some good points, Jamal. But you know what? We're gonna go to break and we're gonna come back. Okay. So
sounds great.
Hang on to that thought. All right. I'm your host, Savon Myers on Talking Wellness.
I'm Kelvin from Kiva.
And you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hey, this is Ricky Duran, and you're listening to Unity Radio on 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hi, I'm Savon Myers, your host on Talking Wellness, presented by the Kiva Centers on Unity Radio 97.9 FM. As a licensed mental health professional and leader in the field, I believe every story matters and healing starts with being heard. Whether you're navigating life's challenges or lifting others through theirs, I'm here to explore the paths of mental health, recovery, and wholeness. Tune into Talking Wellness on Unity Radio 97.9 FM every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for honest conversation and inspiration. This program is sponsored by the Kiva Centers, a statewide leader in peer-led support and recovery services. From Worcester to Western Mass, Kiva is lighting the way forward. Talking Wellness. Every voice, every journey. Speak up, be heard, and of course, be well. It's your girl, Desiree G, with Unity in the Community on Unity Radio 97.9. On Thursday, August 28th, summer concerts featuring the blended sound of rap, rock, funk, and jazz by Ripopotamus from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the Francis Carroll Plaza in front of the Hanover Theater, downtown Worcester. On Friday, August 29th, the Regional Environmental Council welcomes their farmers market at Beaverbrook Park, across from the Foley Stadium, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And Saturday, August 30th, head over to Double Down Night Market and Vendor Pop-Up at Peppercorns, 455 Park Avenue in Worcester, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm Desiree G, and that's your Unity in the Community. Listen for more activities and events on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Wake up and start winning with me, Jacqueline Carr. Sundays from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. right here on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hi, I'm Savon Myers, host of Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm your host, Savon Myers on Talking Wellness.
And I'm Kelvin from Kiva.
And we are sponsored by the Kiva Centers. And we are back from break. Let's see if my good friend Jamal is here. Hi, Jamal. Welcome back. You there?
Yep, right here.
Yep. Okay. Good to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yep. So you coming from a therapeutic standpoint, you mentioned something really that like stood out as far as coping, and basically what you were saying, what we tend to normalize in certain environments, we later realize is not really the norm, right? It's like, okay, if someone was in an environment where they drink and smoke all the time, obviously, yes, in those type of environments, we tend to find unhealthy ways to cope. And then we learn later on as we grow, and gain more knowledge that wasn't a healthy thing. Like, right. Like maybe there was something to it as far as like a substance use behind like drinking and smoking.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you think, Jamal? You made a good point as far as coping skills. Like, so what are some things that you see that people tend to struggle with in environments like Dorchester?
As far as substance abuse or just overall period?
Overall, and obviously that leads into like substance use.
So overall period is just your living conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always played with the notion, right, of calling where I came from or my neighborhood. I look at it as what I call the playpen effect.
Right.
And so the same way you would take a child or children and put them in a playpen and give them so much to play with. So let's take guns, drugs, let's take poverty altogether, poor health care, you name it, right? And I'm not saying there's like, I'm gonna even go as far as saying like a poor educational system. And you like stir it all up and just throw it.
Mm-hmm.
And you throw it in that playpen. And there's no really alternative or an alternative that I know of, right? And I'm just there existing in that playpen and I'm playing with certain stuff. Then I tend to use some of that stuff against the very people who are in that playpen with me. So it becomes a detriment, which turns into almost like the crab in the bucket syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, when I look at all those disparities, if you will, things that are against me, like developing and growing, and then with that anguish, I'm gonna call it the mental health aspect and the trauma aspect of how I really want to be, and then job-wise, I'm not taking the time to like really educate myself, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm doing is I'm running on a like survival mode, and how do I get by? Like, what can I do? What can I do right to, and I'm really preying on the very same people who are in the same condition I'm in. I really am. But I don't see it that way. I see that I'm in the doggy dog world, and I need to get out however possible, how they used to say, by any means necessary.
Right.
And that allows me to perpetuate levels of violence, right, without conscience, right, without a moral compass. So those are the things I feel as though like contribute to a lot of the underlying factors of like we're looking at, excuse me, because I'm driving, so we're looking at the aspect of where am I going? What do I do next? This person has more than me, which if you look prison, and I look at prison and levels of society being a micro and a macrocosm, right? So you don't have to really far as go as prison to see how society is and the things that take place inside the prison. So for me, when I look at the very little that I did have inside, which to some people was a lot because I was well off than some, and you have people in there who are well off, more well off than I am. But for those who aren't, and then things get taken away from them, they'll lose their sensibility. It makes them lash out, or it makes us who were there lash out even more. And now so much is being taken, like you said, you can't really go to the bathroom without getting toilet paper from the CO, especially if it's not your canteen, you didn't order it.
Right.
You can't be in the shower at a certain time because we're putting on a water ban, but yet it's like 90 degrees outside, and I'm already inside of a place that's already like brick and mortar, right? So it's like an oven in there.
Right.
So then they'll say that, okay, well, you can't exercise, and I'm not playing. They will tell you that you can't exercise, and if you get caught exercising, you are going to the hole where it's even hotter.
Right.
I mean, so these things, the same way things get taken from you inside, get taken from you out here as well. So liberty, but free and liberty. Hold up, they're gonna keep calling me. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm happy to be out. Yeah, they're gonna keep calling.
Yep. We
So
can't hear
now,
you.
but
You're back.
So if I understand the question, so for me, when I look at these things that even bother me growing up, it makes you turn to a lot. I mean, I'm talking about it makes you hang on to criminal ethics. I did because of the environment I was in. I'm not saying I was right. And I can, oh my God, and I can is that it's what I did, it's what I saw at the time, it's what I respected, it's what I became. So now looking back, there's a lot of losses, not just time that I spent incarcerated. Lives were lost because of my thinking. There was like I tell people like we were buried alive inside.
Right.
To know what that feels like, to be able to exist and not live. And I tell people living and existing are two different things. When you're out here living, you're thriving, you're full of life, you're spiritually, you feel blessed. There's an abundance. When you're just existing, you're in a day-to-day program and agenda, which feels like a schedule, but it's not. It's like a dictatorship. You can do this, but you can't do that. You can't go over here. You got to go over there. Take your hat, put it forward. Don't turn your head backwards. Do this. It's all kinds of stuff they're telling you to do, which exists here, but it's to a level like if your mind's not open and your understanding is not sharp, you really don't understand the laws that are being passed upon you because you're not there during the process of it. So during the process is what we had to learn inside. Learning that became from a program I was involved with called the AACC, which is the African American Coalition Committee. It was through all that teaching that I learned in the AACC that allowed me to come up with Evolve structurally, right? To come up with an open statement, yes.
Yeah, and it's all psychological too, right? Because
It's,
I know from working with people who've been incarcerated, it's like you come out and you feel lost, right? You're happy to be out, then there's too much freedom, and psychologically it does mess with you. It can feel like a lot like a burden, like a load, because you become dependent on the type of structure that they have when you're incarcerated for some people.
well,
Um, and it can be overwhelming, right? Because now you went from, if it's been a long period of time, you went from someone telling you what to do, how to do it, and what time, to now trying to navigate life outside of that, and how to be structured.
so let's look at that.
Mhm.
You can go from, so that's why a lot of relationships, um, for men and women who come from incarcerated settings, you have to be so, I'm gonna have to use the word astute. You have to be so astute in what y'all are dealing with when it
Mhm.
comes to one another, because now you're taking two different worlds and trying to combine them. Whereas I just came from people telling me what to do all day to
Mhm.
now I have a woman who's not really trying to lose you or lose me, right? And so she's trying to like have some sway over you, not understanding that, oh, don't do this, don't go over there. Oh, and even as small as coexisting in the same place. I tell people, you want to look at that? Let's look at it. I came from a cell, being in the cell with somebody, right?
Mhm.
And my habits might be different from your habits. So if you're doing stuff that I don't like, you might come in the cell with some dirty ass, dirty like boots on, sneakers on, tracking stuff on out. But I didn't do that. I kept the floor clean. But they'll say I have OCD. Why can't I just be a person who's clean? And I may have a person like my wife may do her hair and leave hair in the sink or something, or like toothpaste because she was whatever she was doing, she was rushing. We didn't do that inside. You could not use those bathrooms, them showers, leave even a razor or like a thing from the soap or anything in there. Someone's coming to get you. Someone knew you was in that shower.
Mhm.
And they're telling you, "Oh, go clean up after yourself, man. Be considerate." That type of consideration and respect is considered institutionalized out here. I get it.
Mhm.
I'm just telling you what the method to my madness was. What kept me sane inside, especially in a world where COVID came about, right?
Mhm.
Well, it was always existing, but it came at a point so rapid that it now has people, man, being like neat freaks, spraying all these aerosols you're putting up. So when I look at all those aspects, and I don't want to get off, the basis of what we're talking about here as far as evolve, but these were just some of the things that you were saying, hold on, this is what I'm subject to. And so it starts arguments, right? Because you're not really knowing how to relate with one another.
Right.
Because you were just really like in a fantasy land with like the letters, the visits, and really like, oh, I'm so infatuated with you. I love you. And now out here where it's real, you have to put all that to practice. It's
Mhm.
different. It's so much different. And now you start arguing. And what you thought kept you together, which was prison and in that visiting room, is now pulling you apart because now you're out here free and you're like, well, I ain't got to go for this. No, you don't have to go for this. I ain't got to be around you. No, you don't have to be around me. Instead of you saying, hold on, how did we get to this point?
Right.
We not talk this out. How do we not, the things that was working for us, which we had our communication, whether it was on the phone, letters, and email. Out here, like you can get into an argument, you're just completely shut down on a person or worse.
Where it's like there's no distraction. It's like that barrier. It's a transition for sure. You're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. It's definitely a transition. Because yeah, obviously you're apart. You have like this distance between you two, and you're just hanging on to the one thing that's allowing you to survive while you're in there. That's keeping you happy. That's allowing you to have these feelings and thoughts about, what to look forward to when you get out. And it's also a sense of support to know
Yeah,
that you have someone else outside looking out for you.
looking
Um,
out for
yeah. Calvin, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have two questions, but I also wanted to say something going back to what
Yeah.
y'all was saying. The fact of just coming out, and having all that freedom, like
Yep.
what do you do? What makes it even worse thinking about it's like then you have all these restrictions and laws, like you can't even work or you can't do this. It's
True.
like what
odds
can
are
you even
against you.
really
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
So my two questions to you really was like, while you were incarcerated, what pushed you? Like, what made you like, all right, it's a repeat every single day. What is my drive? What is making me like, all right, when I get out, I want to do this, and a third. Like,
So,
what kept you really going?
I got you. You ever see the movie Life?
I'm
Eddie
sorry?
Murphy, Lawrence, the movie Life with Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence.
I've saw it, but like I'm not too
That's
like
an oldie, right?
Yeah, I'm
It's
not
an
too.
old movie. It's a
Yep.
comedy movie, but I didn't take that movie to slight funny when I first saw it.
Mhm.
Although I laughed with it, I'm a grown man. I don't really care. I cried with it. I tell you why I cried with it. When they have the scene where people are like fading away and dying,
Mhm.
I saw that. Really, really saw that. Men who I grew up with, who I look at as like my older brothers and stuff like that, big brothers, not dying. I said, hold on, I cannot die here.
Mhm.
This is not like my final resting place. This is not, and they gave me life. So they gave me a life sentence with the possibility of parole, right? But still, I was inside, like running around, like this is my home. You're not coming around me, violating me. I went in prison when I was like 160 pounds, 70 pounds, a skinny kid, light skinned, at a time where the stereotypes was rampant, and some of it was real.
Mhm.
We're not going to get into that aspect, but men were taking advantage of other men, right?
Yep.
And I said, this could never be me, and I can't die here, right?
Mhm.
So, although the first time I'm around, because when I said I did 32 years, I did 16. I came home for about 6 months, and I went back for an additional 16 years, right? That right there in itself, and then the people in my life that I loved and still love dearly to this day were dying and died on me while I was inside. But this was all perpetuated from my first action, the first crime I committed, which I got away with it. So I started feeling like I'm Teflon, right? You can't touch me. My people, we like this, we like that. And then finally, they just let you do something. Then they say, okay, we'll hit you. I don't care if it's your first and double incarceration. We're hitting you with everything.
All right, Jamal,
So-
hold on to that thought. We're going to go to break, okay?
All right.
You're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hey, it's DJ Kid Cash on the ones and twos. Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connections.
I'm EC, host of Smooth Grooves on Unity Radio, Unity 979. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to jam the old school way. Don't miss the old school jam reunion, Black and White Edition. It's going down with DJ Chuck Chillin, 7 p.m. Saturday, August 30th at the White Room, 138 Green Street, Worcester, next to the Worcester Public Market. Worcester fam, don't miss this special event. It's the old school jam reunion with DJ Chuck Chillin, Black and White Edition, 7 p.m. Saturday, August 30th at the White Room. Old school jam. It don't get no better.
Recreation Worcester is a free year-round program for youth run by the City of Worcester. The program enriches this city's youth in athletics, arts, academics, and social-emotional learning activities. Food is provided for free of charge for all youth participating in the program. Learn more at the Worcester Recreation website, www.worcesterma.gov/recreation-worcester. That's www.worcesterma.gov/recreation-worcester.
Hi, I'm Ernie Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show on Unity Radio 97.9. Join me and my guests as we discuss topics on embracing our diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. I'm Ernie Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Tune in to Affirmations with Alex, and together we will affirm our way to a healthier mindset by listening to empowering messages. Hi, I'm Alex from Affirmations with Alex. Join me every Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
This is Unity Radio 97.9 Worcester.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Savon Myers, and Talking Wellness.
And I'm Kelvin from Kiva.
And we are sponsored by the Kiva Centers, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. Okay. Jamal, you back? There you go.
I'm back. I'm
Welcome
here.
back. All right. So we were getting into some really good stuff before we left for the break. You were answering one of Kelvin's questions. So let's dive right back into that.
Yes, if you can reiterate that for me, please.
Yes. So pretty much I was just going based off of what y'all were saying about the process and how it was when you kind of came out. But so it got me thinking, like, what made you decide while you were there, especially you telling us that you had a life sentence, like what was the drive? And you were saying the movie Life was the example. So
ultimately the drive really was that my mother didn't raise me to be doing a lot of things I was doing. And I wanted her to be, look down on me, man, feel a sense of pride. Your mother will always, as I know, not my son. I mean, well, at least I know my mother was like that. Not my child. No, he didn't do this either. And I used to tell my mother, Mom, yeah, I did stop. It was me. So,
see you on camera and be like, that's not my baby.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, like, and they'll defend you too for now. Like, that ain't him. Yes, Mom was. So for me, when my mother passed while I was incarcerated, which was one of the most hardest thing I could ever stomach in my life. I don't. Why would you be? I don't stomach a lot, but this one here, like, it really stung, and it really took a lot of my family members who could say, like, I'm gonna say mostly anything to me, and I got no choice but to respect it. So you only really allow like a few adults come see you and a limited amount of children. When I had over 10 relatives in the visiting room and they don't even play those games. When they let me have 10 relatives, I knew something was wrong. But I seen my younger brother come inside that visiting room who's a felon. I said, okay, something's wrong. They don't even allow this to happen. And so that's when I got the news. They allowed me to go to the hospital. They allowed me to go places that they really don't give you furloughs to do. So they call it a furlough. They let me go to the hospital. They let me go to, a burial. They let me do all that. So that right there kept me with some semblance of like calm and peace within my own like, I got this, like what they say, going home. I got to be able to do that in regards to, getting my mother, to her final resting place, if you will. And then from that, people conversated with me, like stay like supportively, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I had those connectors. And I come from a very, very large family. My father has, the amount of brothers and sisters he has coming from Little Rock is just humongous. Their family is humongous. So with that said, they allowed me to navigate, allowed me to say a lot, come visit me until they knew I was stable enough to move on my own accord. I just took that and ran with it. However, like I said, that happened on the first time I did 16 years. So I did not come out without fail. In fact, I was called a spectacular failure by the chairman of the parole board. When he said those words to me, how are you a spectacular failure? Not just a failure, but you're a spectacular failure. I said, oh, this dude got jokes. All right. So I said, okay, what better? You don't define me. No one really does that. And I don't care if I'm doing good. All you doing that really means nothing to me. I appreciate the accolade and all that, but you just suck. You're never gonna be nothing. You really don't define who I am. So my thing is, I define myself. My rules are dictated by me. Although I said we're in a society that can tell you to do A, B, C, and D, I used to always consider myself an habitual rule breaker. Thus the incarceration, the time I spent incarcerated. So now I learned if something I don't agree with, how do you dispute that? Well, what you can start doing, man, you can gather the masses. Y'all can get some signatures done. Y'all can get some people who know law, and we can start putting together proposals the power of your pen, man, is enormous. I had to learn that the hard way. They used to always talk about the battle of the bullet. Me, I was always the one talking about the bullet. I don't deal with, all that other stuff. But now to learn to really thrive and to teach the younger generation how you and their voices, their movement is powerful. It's just unguided. So just like I was, just like many of us were. So now my thing is to take that, move with it, show them how you can do law, show them how you can build business, like the structure, what that looks like, from running it from operations to really, man, being on the ground. I got that new song, Boots on the Ground. I kind of like it. But for me,
is this what
go
Evolve
ahead.
Together is about?
Evolve Together is about helping those from arrest to reentry.
Okay.
The minute you deal with the minute you get handcuffs put on you, you have what's called a carry. They just formed your carry. The minute you start getting going through the court system, and the minute they start giving you these docket numbers, the minute you start getting these convictions, you now have a quarry. I tell people my thing is to deal with you while you're dealing with your carry. Hopefully we can eliminate some of your quarry, where you're not having all these type of stigmas on you that I deal with today. So my thing was to go from, I like to say, from slave ship to ownership, which is why now me and my wife, we are now homeowners seeking to build on that. And it's a lengthy process, and it's not easy. But when it's two heads better than one, we thrive. When we're working against each other, like I spoke about earlier, when your relationship is not intact, and I'm not saying we still dealing with heaven and hell. So we still dealing with both aspects of that word, but we try to keep it heavenly more than hellish. So it's like when I talk about heaven and hell, I'm talking about a mental high capacity, or I'm talking about governing from your lower extremities. I don't govern from my lower extremities. That's where the hell will break in. And I tell most people, understanding that Evolve had to come about dealing with people who's really like all of us who were dealing with our lower extremities. Like, my stomach is growling so loud, I don't even hear what you're saying. You can't talk no sense to me if I ain't eating right. My psychological my psych is not there. My stomach is growling. My kid may need something to eat or some food on them. My mother might be sick or somebody needs medication. You can't tell me nothing if you can't help me fix these issues or give me the solution where I can fix it on my own accord, opposed to you trying to impede on me. So these are the things I don't adhere to. I speak to, I expose them, and I have a team right now. Evolve board wise, my board is not together as we used to have it, and that's why I end up shutting the site down and I'm rebuilding. I'm now predicated on emotional literacy and violence reduction. That is Evolve. At the same time, helping you get your resource wise. What does that look like? Where are you staying at? If I did not have my own, and until I really had my own, I was living with my wife. We had an apartment in Hyde Park. If most of people who come home don't have that, they're living with the SRRs, which is a single room occupancy. You're dealing with just like you was in prison. You're sharing showers with people. They may not have the best of health or cleanliness involved. So your thinking is not there. Your heart is not. It's not really. As I say, your heart and mind interchangeable. They're not calibrated right. So you're thinking, I gotta get out of here. You're not thinking, okay, I have a peace of mind. I have some solace. So I'm so at a point where I'm calm, where I can breathe. You don't have these things around you. You got stuff coming at you north, south, east, west, right? And so it's like, what am I supposed to do? So with that, the emotional fluency, the workshops and the curriculum that I came up with is centered around a lot of stuff I had to deal with, especially the first time I came home, where I was that spectacular failure, if you will.
Right. Yeah. I think that's amazing work, and we need that for a lot of people who do come out, because I mean, I've worked with people who just come fresh out of being incarcerated, and it's hard, and as a clinician, we wear many hats too, because then we become like the social worker, or trying to find resources and help them process what they've been through and what they've done, and adjusting and adapting, and if they're coming out living with a relative and how that's working out and the pressure to move out. So there's a lot of that, in a mix that we do need, resources like this. And we'll get the information in a minute. And I know, Kelvin, you had another question.
Yeah, I also wanted to add this. It's nice to know that you have something like this going, because I've had countless of people come into Kiva and like that day they just got out of jail, and like Kiva's their safe space, or they needed to come and like resume into their lives. So it's nice to know that there's things like this to recommend those who are out there who are struggling and only have places like Kiva. But the question was, for young adults who are kind of going down the wrong path, what is your advice to them? What can they do to kind of steer away from being in positions that they're not really built for?
Well, my thing is that you gotta. So there's no one size fits all, right?
Right.
And so for me, I used to do, especially working in part-time services, as a mentor, as a counselor, I now have to like become an active listener. You have to be an active listener.
Yes.
And being an active listener, you don't want to probe too much. I mean, because that'll spook them. But my thing is like, yo, what's up? I mean, I do it all the time, and I'll say the word. I call the kids Shuby. So if you ever hear the word Shuby, you know that came from me. I use that word, like I said, when I'm dealing with self-perceptions to negate the N-word, right? So when you start changing their dialect, how they define themselves, how they're looking at themselves, it becomes that much easier, right, to steer them in a different direction. I'm not saying it's complete, because they're consistently bombarded with these images of what they need to be, who they need to become. It's in everything. This is old age. It's the music, the media, videos, even peer pressure, right?
Yeah.
So when you can combat some of that, right, and you do it in a way that they're more instrumental in their own growth and development than you trying to dictate to them as to who they need to be. No, because if they spot it, they got it. If you keep telling them about it, they don't really understand it. They're gonna just don't put your hand in that fire, man. Don't touch that. What? What you mean it's hot? Yeah. All right. And they're gonna do it regardless. But if you give them a different method, and it's all in your methodology, right? If you give them a different method and a different illustration as to what that looks like, then they have a fighting chance on developing something for their own accord. My thing is to give them that. And I do that by pulling them away from their peers. Let me talk to you one-on-one. I'll go to the other kid, talk to him one-on-one or her one-on-one, and go do that until now we all have a complete understanding. So if we do come back full circle, they do not want to front and play with me, because I know. Just like I told them intimate things about me, they told me intimate things about themselves. We have a respectful relationship, and this is how we're going to grow and develop. If there's an issue, they will come to me, and if I can address that, it's going to get addressed. If I don't do it myself, I will find a resource or someone who's that much more qualified than me, because we're not going to let you, it's no man left behind. I told you it's a war.
Yeah.
You can't leave anyone behind. You really can't.
Jamal, how can we reach you if people who want to gain resources or have access to resources from Evolve together?
Well, I told them to hit my email address, which is Jamal Spencer 1971 at gmail.com.
Nice.
The number, I will provide a phone number which is directly to me, which you have my number, which is 617-396-1366.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Very insightful. I feel like we can be up here for hours. There's just so much to talk about regarding this topic. And so hopefully our listeners are, holding on to that information that you've just given so they can reach out to you, especially Kiva, since I bet they can benefit.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Savon Myers on Talking Wellness.
And I'm Kelvin from Kiva.
And you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.